So, is Rainford here?
Nope.
How about, do we want to just bring the man of the hour up to the podium?
Yes.
And he can kind of share some of his perspective on this stuff and give you guys a sense of why now is the right time. Al?
Listen, yeah, if you say the name first, you don't want to walk up when you make an announcement like that, and then you not be the man of the hour. I was just looking for the name, not to be foolish.
You have an idea of
And
That was
I'm sure you're
wonderful.
quite used to these.
Yep, thank you very much.
And thanks for your patience, guys. A little technical glitch. We'll fix it next time.
Hey, great. Thank you, Jason, and welcome to all of you here. I'm honored that you've come to our shop and have had a very instructive evening, hopefully, and some good fellowship. So I'm glad to be part of that with you, and enjoyed very much the presentation and the future that you have at hand. Jason, I thought, did a great job in covering things and the challenges that you have. I just thought maybe anecdotally I'd share a couple of Florida moments with you to kind of first get a sense of Florida's resiliency over time, and B, maybe paint a picture for the future that is pretty optimistic for our state, given the not so optimistic indicators that we all learn to read and interpret in a very professional way. I remember moving to this community in the late 70s, and then facing in the early 80s, South Florida basically had the vestiges of a corporate town. We had Knight Ridder, we had Eastern Airlines, Pan American. Most of the major airlines had found their home in Miami for some reason, National Airlines. And Southeast Bank happened to have been the largest banking institution in the Southeast. And so, had a few corporate leaders who basically had the opportunity to have a major say philanthropically in terms of economic development and growth. Within a span of 3 years, all the airlines went bankrupt. That represented about a fourth of our workforce in South Florida. Knight Ridder decided to go to San Jose, California. And Southeast Bank was consumed by a state with a short-range vision of not opening up banking across our borders, and so they were swallowed up by the other folks who were allowed by their states to move around and grow much larger than they were. And on top of that, we had some very difficult racial tensions and some of the nationally notorious riots that made us, for another time, the cover of Time magazine. The amazing thing during this 5-year period is that as tough as all of that was, and as our unemployment rates went through the roof, we gained in population. And so, the rest of the state, although it didn't have it as tough as South Florida for the reasons I've told you, kind of did the same thing. And it's part of the magic of the state. And it was obviously the weather climate, the excitement of living in Florida, and the hope that you could just pull up your wagon and move to a state and have a better life for yourself and your family. And so we always represented that unfulfilled American dream to a lot of people. And frankly, it was those intangibles that got us to grow out of a very difficult situation where we went from a town basically kept by a corporate governance to a whole host of small business entrepreneurs who decided to take up the slack on their backs and make this a special place that it is today. And so you go now forward a few 25 years, and where do we find Florida? I'll use kind of a football analogy for Florida to kind of describe our economy. Florida found out that it could have a very simple offense and score a lot of points. It could basically have 4 or 5, 3 or 4 running plays, agriculture, tourism, and real estate, and have a heck of a boom state. And we've grown on a very simple playbook for all of these years. And we've had the typical cycles everybody's had, but by and large, we've lived to a 3-page playbook, and incredible good things have happened to us, and that's made us lazy and not innovative. And now we find ourselves in a fork in the road where we know that real estate's going to be flat for a long time to come. The appetite for agriculture has been trimmed down by NAFTA, international accords that will continue to happen. And frankly, it's still propped up, and citrus, some of the winter crops have paid the heaviest price by these international accords. And a sugar industry that thrives on these heavy subsidies, but I think they're seeing down the road that those type of subsidies may not be within the appetite realm of a growing conservative Congress with difficult fiscal policies. And that's one of the reasons you saw that all-out effort to have the state purchase large chunks of one of our two major sugar producers in the state. They had a pretty good vision of the state going up 10 or 20 years, and that's why Jason didn't mention that sector as one of the 8 growth opportunities of our state. It's still that significant, but it happens to be the case. Real estate will have to take a back seat for a while for all of the reasons we mentioned. You know, although and why we have high unemployment, consider this: nationally, the workforce in the real estate industry, whether you're a carpet layer, a mortgage broker, a developer, is 10%. In Florida, it's 21, 22%. So, you know, our highest, our very high unemployment rates are directly related to the fact that so much of the state depends on an industry. That's the case. And that industry's always survived in spite of cycles because of our growth, contrary to other states, have always kept it bouncing forward. Nowadays, we've had 4 years in a row of flat growth and a couple of years where we've actually lost population. And now we've got an excess of inventory all over the state for all the reasons that Jason mentioned. So that industry will slow down. Agriculture will kind of obviously not be what it was in the past, although it'll be a very significant contributor. And tourism, thankfully, is still holding its own and will continue to for the foreseeable future. But why am I so optimistic about Florida, given that we don't really have a backup plan until now? And that's where you all come in, because you're going to be an integral part, I believe, of that backup plan. The key about this backup plan, of course, is diversity. And what do we have? Diversity of that 3-page playbook that I mentioned to you. And what do we have to get us there? And why am I so optimistic? Very simple rules, the same things that got us going in the 50s. The weather climate, the political climate, and the will of the people here and elsewhere in America to make this their home. And as long as we have those 3 things, we're far ahead of the competition. Interestingly, politically, which is kind of a space I like to be in, you looked at California and Florida, kind of similar indicator difficulties in unemployment, foreclosure rates, things of that nature. But you don't really see businesses leaving Florida, but you see them leaving California in hordes. And I told the governor-elect that the best economic development office we could put is one in California and one in New Jersey, and maybe get some of your cohorts in Wall Street to come down here. And that would be Florida's most brilliant economic development plan, and one that we'll likely pursue. But the political climate here in Florida, in my opinion, is a great asset. Unlike California, which went in the other direction, surprisingly enough, given all their indicators, in Florida, that fiscal conservative message in a state that had similar difficulties perceived by the public as California was a wave that whether it was in federal office or state offices, that created a mandate. And that was a mandate for a business climate in the state of Florida of lesser taxes, lesser regulations, and a very aggressive approach towards creation of business opportunities. And that's the climate that you're living in now. Basically a blank canvas. We've run out of our 3-page playbook. We're asking folks like you to figure out how do we paint that blank canvas to make our state look different 10 or 20 years from now and tomorrow in terms of what our business opportunities are and where we thrive. And here's what the state's going to throw at you. They're going to throw at you our weather, our political environment, our tax structure, and the willingness to be by your side every day rather than fighting you every day. And that's a new Florida that we're going to be facing in this fork on the road. Where you come in, I think, is going to be a pretty impressive time frame. We've got a governor-elect that obviously comes from the private sector, merger and acquisitions, is very, very well aware of all of the nuances that that you guys have to deal with every day. And we've got a legislature that's turned more fiscally conservative, that's committed to cutting back on regulatory environment, cutting back on the tax environment, eliminating the business tax, and creating a climate for our education that will provide a workforce that you can all feed off of. And this is going to take a public-private sector effort. The opportunities that you have is that, you know, we're opening up the door to every possible review we can. In the state pension program, there's already been a commitment by the state at the executive and legislative branch levels to look at management, look at board direction, and look at the state of mission. You know, you're a different breed than financial advisors. You come up with a totally different package opportunity for the state. The state needs to look at you as a wonderful synergy between your ability to maybe handle some of those state funds in conjunction with private funds to make 2 and 2 or 1 plus 1 be 3. And that is an opportunity that you're going to have and that we're going to help you with. Get in the door of a legislative executive branch process to make that 1 and 1 equals 3. You're going to have to do your homework. You're going to have to figure out where does it make business sense-wise to do this and what does state need to do in order to make these things work. And the state obviously is going to be limited in resources other than pension funds and creative opportunities or incentives for the development, but you're going to have to drive in many ways the creative train. The governor's committed to being the #1 economic development person in the state. He realizes that a good chunk of his schedule needs to be dedicated to doing that if he's going to take on this unemployment challenge that we have. But I believe that you will see more activity this 1 year than the last 20 years put together in terms of governance reform for our pension systems, in terms of rethinking what we can do to provide the business sector with a more positive climate, and a very aggressive approach to attract businesses to our state. And within that climate, you need to figure out what role you want to play and how you want to do that. And our goal is to help you with that and get through those hoops so that you make as much of a difference as you can.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.